Police officers with flashlights stomped through Dale Moffat's tomato patch at 6:15 a.m., demanding to see the barn. I pointed behind me where a modest red structure sat, with a wind vane and a rocking chair out front. Nothing illegal, nothing suspicious, until one officer opened the barn door and found a locked filing cabinet labeled Arborage Financials. Confidential. I raised an eyebrow. That's not mine, I said. But I think I know whose name is on those. Cue sirens again. Let me back up. My name is Dale Moffat, and I had inherited the property in Wisteria Downs, a cul-de-sac kingdom where begonias were measured and trampolines were outlawed. The barn was a relic from my grandfather's time, lovingly restored for gardening tools, a vintage Coke machine, and naps. It was the last piece of him I had left, and I wasn't about to let anyone take it. Meredith Sloan, HOA president and self-described optics consultant, hated it. She claimed it violated aesthetic cohesion. Her husband, Rick, wore loafers to mow the lawn and hadn't spoken above a whisper since 2009. I'd lived next to them for 3 years. The most I'd ever heard from Rick was a mumbled "good morning," while he collected his newspaper in silk pajamas. Meredith wanted the barn gone. I refused. And that's when the petty began. Anonymous complaints about my mailbox being 2 inches too far from the curb. Citations for grass zero. 5 inches over regulation height. Then came her campaign, "No more hay in the HOA." Laminated flyers featuring clip art pitchforks. Door to door with a clipboard. Wearing a blazer that said "Community First" in rhinestones. Noise complaints. Accusations of barn-related rustling. I found her in my backyard with a tape measure and laser pointer, claiming she was mapping the barn's aura spread. When I asked her to leave, she said public safety concerns superseded property lines. I had to call the non-emergency police line to get her off my property. But it escalated. She held special HOA meetings about agricultural structures. Brought in a consultant who was clearly her cousin in a fake mustache. Started a Facebook group called Concerned Citizens Against Rural Issues with 3 members, herself, her husband's dummy account, and someone named Barbara who thought it was a gardening club. I ignored her. Figured she'd tire herself out. But then I got a formal notice in the mail. Unapproved agricultural structure. It came with a $1,400 fine and a threat of lien. Attached was a blurry photo of my barn with "suspicious" written in red Sharpie. So I installed cameras. What I captured in 2 weeks was equal parts comedy and felony. Meredith trespassing at night, whispering into a walkie-talkie. Sweeping a metal detector around the barn. Sketching from different angles. Using a camera lens longer than my forearm. I compiled the footage for the HOA meeting. But Meredith beat me to the punch. She called the cops. Said the barn might be hiding weapons. Or hoarded livestock. Said she feared for the safety of the entire neighborhood. That brings us back to that morning. The officers arrived at dawn, way too dramatic for a barn inspection. I offered them coffee. They declined. Instead of weapons, they found heirloom tools and a mini fridge full of grape Fanta. One officer chuckled at my grandfather's vintage spark plug collection. But then Officer Davidson noticed something I'd never seen. Tucked behind a shelf of clay pots. A locked metal cabinet. Sticker on the front. RS Consulting LLC. I told him I had no idea it was there. Must have been from before I inherited the place. He made a call. His face changed. RS Consulting was under federal investigation for embezzlement. It belonged to Rick Sloan, Meredith's silent husband. They asked me to step outside. Within an hour, they had a warrant. Meredith saw the additional cars. Came storming out of her house in a monogrammed bathrobe, poodle in one hand, megaphone in the other. Declared, "This is harassment of upstanding citizens." Officer Davidson escorted her to the curb. Politely but firmly. Inside the cabinet, dozens of falsified invoices, bank statements, digital ledgers. Rick had been running a fraudulent consulting scam, using HOA funds from multiple neighborhoods. Forged contracts, dummy corporations, a tangled web of financial crime. Suddenly, Meredith's obsession with my barn made sense. She wasn't worried about aesthetic cohesion. She was hiding evidence. She screamed it was all a misunderstanding. Frantically called someone, probably a lawyer. Rick was arrested in the quietest perp walk I've ever seen. Socks with sandals. Not a word, just a sigh as they closed the door on the squad car. Meredith tried to approach. Was held back. The investigation moved fast. Her name was on 3 emails referencing diverted maintenance budgets. She instructed Rick to store documents off-site. One email said, "The old coot will never know what's right under his nose." Another explained how she created fake emergencies, like the $40,000 pool repair that actually cost $800. She changed her story 3 times. Old tax returns. Family heirlooms. Never seen the cabinet. The HOA called an emergency meeting. For years, people were too scared to speak. Now they found their voice. Unanimous vote. Meredith was removed. She stood, bitter and furious. This community is too small-minded for my vision. Someone laughed. Might have been me. Then the board did something wild. They asked me to serve as a non-vindictive advisor. I made sure that was printed on a mug. My first motion. Remove all barn-related restrictions. Rick Sloan was convicted on multiple counts of embezzlement and fraud. He'd stolen over $400,000 from 3 HOA neighborhoods. 8 years in federal prison. Meredith got 2 years plus 5 years probation. Restitution, $250,000. Turns out those spa treatments and $12,000 handbags were funded by stolen HOA dues. When the sentence was read, Meredith let out a wail. That definitely violated several HOA noise ordinances.